get so far? How did we get so far ahead of us? How did we get so far? How did we get so far ahead of us?
Is it on? Oh! Hello everyone, I'm Lyon, transported to the United States in 2011. And let me tell you, it's been a ride. Do you know how funny your guys' clothes feel? Anyway, I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself. Apparently you guys have pretty much forgotten me. Not one book at the local library. I'm offended, but I would never say so, because that would be rude. However, per the request of a teacher named Mrs. Richmond, whom I admire very much, I'm alive and well and here. You're welcome. I was born on February 28th, 1797 in New England. Too bad it's November. We could have had a birthday celebration. It is my 215th birthday next year. I think I look rather young, don't you? I was born into a family of 6 other kids. Of course, because my dad died when I was only 5, my mom was left to handle all 7 of us alone. I remember those days. Complete mayhem. Never a moment to oneself. When she remarried and moved in with her new husband, I was left pretty much independent. At 13. But I am a capable young girl, entirely able to take care of myself, which basically means I was scared out of my wits. I got it together though, and began teaching by age 17. I didn't need a degree or anything, like you do now. My, what do you call it? Track record. You sure do have odd sayings. We never said anything like that in my day. Language has progressed so much. Too much slang. You all say things like dude and what's up and LOL. What does that stand for anyway? And while we're on the subject of confusion, who is this Justin Bieber? Anyway, my good grades were qualification enough, so I began teaching. I was paid 75 cents a week, much less than my male counterparts. Just teaching the basics to unseemly kids wasn't enough though. I wanted to learn too. So I balanced 2 worlds. While I was teaching, I was also a student at another school. Living with 6 other siblings couldn't have been more hectic. I would sometimes take a 3-day carriage ride just to enroll in a school. Those were my least favorite parts, the carriage rides. The carriage always seems to hit every single bump in the road. But I digress. Even though my family didn't want me to, I used some of the money my father had left behind for me to pay for the furthering of my education. It wasn't much, but by trading blankets that I had made for lodging, I made it through. I taught for the next 20 years, and in the process became quite an expert, not only on teaching, but also on female education, if I do say so myself. Which I do. As I grew older, I realized that education for women was sorely lacking. We were hardly ever educated as well as menfolk. Colleges and seminaries were very few. Besides, they all taught girly things, sewing and dancing and the like. I don't know why men didn't understand that we wanted to learn what they were learning. Latin, Greek, arithmetic, chemistry. I wanted to learn fascinating stuff, not how to embroider. Speaking of chemistry, I should probably come back to that later, shouldn't I? I'm not quite there yet. Once I realized the great gap in girls' gathering of knowledge, like what I did there, great gap in girls' gathering of knowledge. It's alliteration. Why couldn't you guess that? What do you mean they can't talk back to me? What kind of class is this where the students can't talk to the teacher? Once I realized the great gap in girls' gathering of knowledge, I was determined to right the wrong. That is, I was going to set up a second education school for young women. It took me some time to gather the funds, but I eventually did, and founded Mount Holyoke. Not Holy Oak like a spiritual tree or something. Holy Oak, spiritual tree. Get it? Get it? No one ever gets it. But it's spelled Holyoke for those extremely studious pupils who I know are hanging on my every word and taking elaborate and extensive notes. This category would include all of you, right? Right? I know not to expect a response. It was a rhetorical question. Honestly. Where was I? Oh, right. The founding of Mount Holyoke. It was founded in 1837, you know. So I was 40. I wanted Holyoke to be brimming with students. All 80 of them. That's how many were there on the opening day. Isn't that exciting? There were certain aspects of Holyoke that absolutely had to be in my school. You had to be at least 17 to apply, for one reason. If you were accepted, you were expected to do chores to keep the school running smoothly. This kept costs down, which kept tuition low. No one should ever have to pay through the nose to have a good education. Yet another current phrase I don't understand. You can't pay through your nose anyway. What I mean to say is the tests to get into the school were difficult. We only accepted the best and the brightest. I wanted Holyoke to be long-lasting, hopefully for forever, and to draw its resources from everywhere, not just a church or a single sponsor. Of course, the biggest point of founding Holyoke was making sure that women were given a proper education. So the courses were as hard as the courses in men's colleges, and even though it didn't officially become a college until 1888, we have always required the best of our students. And now I can talk about chemistry. Although teaching has always been my first great passion, I also had an interest in chemistry. I made time out of my busy schedule each and every day to give at least one talk on it to my students. I don't believe I've mentioned this, but I used to know Emily Dickinson. I believe you've heard of her, even if I was her teacher. Don't know why you haven't heard of me. I don't mean to brag or anything, but she attended Holyoke for 1 year. I also taught one of the young women who knew Susan B. Anthony, so I am really quite the socialite. All in all, I believe I can say I have had a great effect on America, especially on America's women. Some of my students have gone on to set up their own schools. I not only paved the way for women's education, I also helped many women down the path. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe I will go find out who Justin Bieber is.